Publicity. This video lecture is going to go over the idea of getting publicity for your small business. When we talk about publicity, sometimes it's referred to as public relations. When we look at it, we're talking about media coverage of your business, products, services, or of the entrepreneurs themselves. When we talk about advantages of publicity, obviously the fact that we're getting media coverage and we're not paying for it. It's not advertising. Some of the disadvantage might be that we don't have as much control over the message that's being sent out as you would when you're purchasing advertising. Usually we view this as submitting a story. A lot of times we think of public relations, sending out press releases to get an article in a printed publication, be it a newspaper, a trade magazine, getting a story done. But publicity is larger than just the idea of getting a story about your specific business. It could be you being interviewed. It could be you being brought in to speak regarding or being positioned as an expert in a specific field. So there's a lot of different areas and different ways for you to get publicity for your business. We talk about some different tips that we can look at for getting publicity. First thing we need to do is we need to check the editorial policies of the targeted medium. What type of stories are they interested in? What are they looking for? And when are they really looking for that information? We'll make sure that if we're sending material in to different media outlets that we identify the reporter, editor, someone specific to send that information to. It won't necessarily hurt you to send it to, say you're looking at a newspaper, to send it to the editor of a specific section and send it to a reporter of a specific section. You want to identify the market of the medium that you are targeting. Does your material that you're presenting to them meet that market? We want to make sure that if you send material out for a grand opening or a fundraiser, that if it's got a specific date or for a specific event, that you follow up with a phone call or email just to verify that. As we talked about before, know the deadlines of your targeted media, especially if you're time sensitive and this publication comes out once a month. You want to make sure that you identify which edition it needs to go into, and are you getting that information to them in time to meet their press deadlines. You want to be persistent. Just because an outlet doesn't print your first press release, you want to continue to send press releases over and over again because you don't know when that story is actually going to fit. When we talk about doing interviews, you want to make sure that you realize that nothing you say is going to be off the record. Everything you say is going to be publishable. If they're interviewing you because of a controversy regarding your business, maybe there's an accident outside the business, people complaining about your business, you want to make sure that you don't run away from the controversy, that you're prepared for the questions that they're going to ask you. Speaking of being prepared for the questions, we'll make sure that you plan effectively for your interview. And identify, what I mean by planning, a lot of times people just go into it without preparing. And so we want to make sure that when we do prepare for the interview, that we identify what are some specific questions they may be asking you, where do you want to direct those answers, and what information do you want to get across. And so by doing that, if a question doesn't lead directly to the information you're trying to get across, you make sure that you steer the conversation in a way where it does get you there. Another way to get publicity is through speaking. And speaking will identify you as an expert in your field. I have spoke at many different conferences and events. You want to make sure that you identify which organizations that you might fit in with. From the chamber, people are looking for speakers from Chamber of Commerce to industry-related organizations. So there's a lot of different organizations that are looking for speakers. They might be doing a conference where they're looking for breakout sessions. And so this is a good chance for you to get out, not only network with people, but to really share the message, and it really positions you in the place that you are a expert in the field. The one thing you want to keep away from is the idea of trying to sell your product or business or service every time you go out speaking. You're not there as an advertisement, even though the name of your business is going to be identified. You're there to present on whatever the topic is. Make sure that when you are presenting, that you practice your presentation ahead of time. If you are not typically used to speaking in front of groups, you make sure that you are as poised and practiced up as much as you can. You want to make sure that you understand what the target audience is looking for that you're going to be speaking to. And so, if I give a presentation to a group of educators, that presentation is geared a little bit differently if I give a presentation to a group of high school students. And so you have to understand what's the market and why are you filling that specific market or need. When we talk about the press release, we want to make sure that we follow the press release format. Your contact information should be clear and easy to locate. The biggest thing to identify with a press release is you want to make sure that your information is transferable. You want to make sure that it's newsworthy and it doesn't come off as an advertisement. We'll talk a little bit about success that we had at Gateway with Entrepreneurship Summit a couple years ago, where we brought in a nationally recognized speaker. But one of the strengths of the press release was that the different media outlets could literally cut and paste from the press release into their publication. And so they really have to take stuff out because we didn't make it pitched as an advertisement. And you want to make sure that you use a heading and that the body of the press release should be 1.5 times or double spaced. And we always end the press release with those 3 symbols. It shows the reader that the press release is completed. You don't have to look for another page of information. Now, in the Blackboard site, you will see a template up there that I borrowed from pressreleasetemplates.net. Just did a quick search and found some templates out there. Couple things to look at the press release itself. Your contact information, you want to make sure that you identify in very clear terms up on the top left-hand corner, who do they need to contact if they want more information on this story. Then underneath the contact information, you will see the heading. So the heading will identify what is the story. Then underneath the heading, you always see the tag for immediate release. You will then come back to the city, state, the location, and then the body of the press release itself. Towards the end, you put something, what they call boilerplate, or some basic information regarding your company, and then the 3-pound symbols at the end. And so that is the basics of the press release. You want to make sure that when you are providing information, that all the questions you may have about it are answered. And so if you're doiling out a specific event, you're going to say why you're doing the event, when you're, and very importantly, when you're doing it and why people should be interested. And if it's date sensitive, you want to make sure those dates and all that information, contact information, is included inside of the body of the release. Now, when we brought in Bill Rancic for the Entrepreneurship Summit, we had a very successful press run. And a couple things that we did, we sent out through our marketing department, one press release was sent out to many different outlets. we have a list of publications and media outlets that we send all of our press releases out to. The press release itself got picked up not only locally, but regionally. We were lucky enough that the Associated Press actually picked up the story. And so, by sending out the one press release to all these different avenues, we've got newspaper articles, we also had radio interview requests, we had television interview requests. The interesting thing is, we probably got more coverage than we ever anticipated. And so we got newspaper coverage from throughout the state. We got newspaper coverage all the way down through Chicago. We also had reports that it was picked up in parts of Minnesota and Iowa. One of the advantages this also led to all of a sudden I, as a person coordinating the event and listed as a person in charge, for other purposes, am the go-to person now. Not necessarily a go-to person, but I'm referenced in a couple different articles that they've run on entrepreneurship. And so if they want opinions about entrepreneurship in our area, sometimes the newspaper will contact me. And that contact information started through that press release for that entrepreneurship event a couple years ago. And the other item is, if you go to Google, you type in Gateway Temple College, Bill Rancic, you'll still find a lot of articles that are out there about his participation. And so that's the one thing with the print media that has changed, is that these articles can last and have a longer shelf life because of the internet, and that articles are staying around a little bit longer than they did in the past.